Dear viewers, welcome to today's interview. This conversation will be with Bishop Hlib Lonchyna, the Apostolic Administrator of our Eparchy in Paris, and also the head of the Patriarchal Liturgical Commission. Bishop Hlib, welcome. Christ is born.
Thank you. Glorify him.
Bishop, this time has been quite difficult. The pandemic has posed its own challenges, and your move from England to Paris, I imagine, also had challenges as well as blessings. I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about that move and what that involved.
Yeah, well, the move was in 2019, which was pre-pandemic. And so life was pretty much normal as it could have been, with traveling to different parishes and going to different meetings. But then, of course, the pandemic hit, and that we had a general shutdown, just like in any other country, where for a few months, for about 2 months, we could not even have people come to church. So we relied on transmissions through the internet, through Facebook, of the divine services. And this was especially hard for Easter of 2020. Then things got a little bit better. And when people started coming back to church, the priests saw that there have been many problems have been created by this pandemic. A lot of them psychological. People have been shut in their homes. So this brought out many, let's say, many demons in them, and they could not cope with them. So they were seeking help in confession, in spiritual guidance. So this was quite trying for our priests. And then, of course, when they started coming back, also we had restrictions in church attendance. There was a time when we could only accept a definite number of people, and we had to turn others away, or they had to sign in through the internet or through Viber or something like that. So that also caused a lot of friction, because we want people to come to church, and now we're telling them not to come, or that they have to, they can come only if they sign up. So now we're in a different stage where the pandemic is really diffused, and a lot of people are getting sick. A lot of people are testing positive, although the symptoms are not so grave as they were before. So these pose a lot of challenges for our priests in our pastoral work. But we continue on. Our priests are doing a marvelous work.
Mm-hmm. That's really good to hear. I was just wondering if perhaps you, in your own eparchy, have any initiatives or perhaps ideas of how to reassure people when they come back to church that things are safe in churches, that all the restrictions are being kept to. I mean, how do we reassure people that coming back to church is safe and that they're welcome to come back?
Yes, well, we keep to the sanitary regulations. We have people wearing masks in church. Even our priests wear them at the altar. We have sanitizers at the doors of the church. We have the people coming in through one door, going out of the other. I'm talking about the cathedral here in Paris. So we are encouraging people to come back, and the priests always remind the people of the regulations, so that they feel safe. And of course, the way we distribute Holy Communion is with wooden spoons. So these are, each person receives Holy Communion with one spoon, and then the spoon is put aside, and then they are burnt. So this is the most hygienic way of distributing Holy Communion for the people. So we try to do as best we can.
Sounds like wonderful work. I wonder if we could perhaps talk a little bit about your work as the head of the Patriarchal Liturgical Commission. I'm not sure that everybody is familiar with perhaps the work that you do. Perhaps we can start off, how was the commission founded? Why was it founded and when?
Well, it was founded yet in the 1990s, but when the church started building its infrastructure, different commissions were formed, like the Catechetical Commission, like the Commission for the Family, or the Ecumenical Commission. So the Liturgical Commission is one of them. Now our aim is to prepare liturgical texts for our church. So we work on different translations. There have been translations of, for example, the services for the martyrs, services for the blessing of the Patriarchal Sobor in Kyiv, for different martyrs that have been beatified by St. John Paul II. Also, we have been working on the Divine Liturgy, on a new version of it. It's not exactly a new translation because we are basing it on the translations that have already been done. But there are a few places where it's being corrected or a better translation is given. So these are the types of things that are done by the Liturgical Commission. Of course, there's also the Psalter that has been translated from the Church Slavonic, and that is also one of our works.
Perhaps we could speak a little bit about the translation of the Divine Liturgy, because we have the 1988 translation, right? And then, so this translation, that will be a sort of amendment to that, to the 1988 translation, if I understand correctly.
Well, the first translation was in 1968. It was done by Patriarch Joseph Slipei. And that was the basic translation that is used by our church. And then in 1988, there was a new version of it published with a number of changes. And now this new one that we're working on we're correcting some of the mistakes that were done in the 1988 version, but we're also going back to some of the words that were in the 1968 translation. So it all depends on each prayer. We're looking to, first of all, that it be correct in translation, but also that it be understood, because a lot of Church Slavonic words that have been incorporated into our language and into our liturgy are no longer understood by people. On the other hand, the Ukrainian language is not yet so developed as to have its terminology, especially theological or philosophical terminology, is set. So some words we need to return to the Church Slavonic, because this was our ancient language. Before it became Russian, it was our old language used in our lands. So that's why it'll be the new translation will be a combination of these things.
Mm-hmm. And that translation will be available in English and Ukrainian, or initially in Ukrainian, then?
No, initially in Ukrainian. The English, it will need to be done yet in the future.
Mm-hmm. That's good work. I think many of our viewers on the Open Church program will be expecting the English translation at some point, so we look forward to that.
I'm sure not only in English, but there's work that has already been done on German translations, French, Spanish, and Portuguese, and other languages.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic for all the different areas of our church, so that everybody might have translation they understand. So that's really important work. Mm-hmm. Recently, we've heard on the news that Ukraine is really struggling with the situation on the Eastern Front with the war. And I know England's been sending weapons this week to Ukraine to kind of support that. Perhaps you have some words of encouragement, some words of wisdom regarding perhaps the moral stand towards that. People are very worried, obviously. It's a difficult time. What would you say to those who are struggling, perhaps because of this?
It is a great worry, and I think what we need to do is bring out the big guns. That is prayer, fasting, mm-hmm. Sacrifice. Those are the things that change this world, because I mean, the powerful of this world, they depend on money, they depend on their on weapons and things like that, and this will ultimately bring a lot of destruction to the earth. We need to keep our faith. Jesus warned that because of all kinds of wars and strifes, the faith of people will be lessened. A lot of people will lose their faith. So that's what we need to work on, is to preserve our faith and help others to preserve it. To always remember that whatever happens, God is always above us. God is always in charge. And if something happens, it is because not because he wants it, but because he permits it, so that a greater good can come out of it. We very often do not see what the greater good is, because it touches our lives and brings a lot of sufferings into our lives. But in the long run, the Lord will turn what has been what is evil into some kind of good.
Bishop Hlib, thank you very much for joining us today on Open Church. Christ is born.
Glorify him. Thank you, and God bless all of you.
Thank you.